Hello and welcome to this video on solving simultaneous equations. Today we're going to be looking particularly at the substitution method. So let's get started. Here you'll see here's the first pair of simultaneous equations that we're going to solve together. And in this type of problem, you'll see that we actually have y being the subject of both equations. Now what I mean by that is y is on the left-hand side of the equals all by itself. And this actually makes the problem a little bit easier to solve because if this thing here, the 3x plus 2, is equal to y, and then this thing here, x plus 6, is also equal to y, then I can say that those two things are both equal to each other. So we can write 3x plus 2 is y, and this is also equal to x plus 6 because that is also y. Once you've set it up like this, you can go ahead and solve that equation. So to do that, I'm first of all going to subtract x from both sides. And what that will have the effect of doing is to get rid of that x, it will cancel. So if I subtract x from the left-hand side, I have 3x minus x is 2x. The plus 2 remains. And so now this is equal to, now that I subtract x, so that x that I've crossed through has gone. And so we are just left with 6 on that side of the equation. Now I deal with the numbers. So I want to subtract 2 from both sides. If I subtract 2 from the left-hand side, this will go. So on the left-hand side, we are just left with 2x. And then on the right-hand side of the equation, we're going to do 6 minus 2 to get 4. So now I have 2x is equal to 4. I want to know what x is. And so we can divide both sides through by 2. So I have x is equal to 4 divided by 2, which is 2. And this is the first solution. X is equal to 2. Now we also need to work out what y is. So to do that, I'm going to substitute x into either of the two equations at the top. I will choose the second one because that looks a little bit easier to me. So we're going to substitute 2 in there. And so we have y is equal to x plus 6, but x is 2, so y is equal to 2 plus 6. And so y is 8. This is the second solution. I'll put a box around that as well to highlight it. And we are done. I'm now going to put a second set of equations on the screen. So you see we have y is equal to x minus 1 and y is equal to 4x plus 5. So if you'd like to have a go yourselves, now would be a great time. You can grab a pen and paper and pause the video. And then in just a minute, I'm going to work through the solutions. Okay, so hopefully, if you tried, you would have done the same thing. So you would have started off by saying, well, y is equal to x minus 1. And that is also y is equal to 4x plus 5. So I can set those two equations equal to each other. Now we're going to try and solve for x. So to do that, we first of all need to get all the x's on one side of the equation. So I'm going to subtract x from this side. So on the left-hand side, I just have negative 1. And then I'm going to subtract x from the right-hand side. So we have 4x minus x, which is 3x plus 5. Now I need to deal with those numbers. So I'm going to subtract 5 from both sides. That will get rid of this. So subtracting 5 from the left-hand side, negative 1 minus 5 is negative 6, is equal to 3x, and that 5 has been cancelled out there now on the right. The last step to work out what x is to divide both sides through by 3. So x is equal to negative 6 divided by 3, which is negative 2. Now this is the first solution. Now once you've got x is negative 2, you're going to substitute that into either of the two equations at the top. I will choose this first one here. And now we can work out what y must be. So y is equal to negative 2 subtract 1. And so the final solution, y is equal to negative 3. So well done if you managed to get right to the end there. And now we can go on and look at another type of problem. So here you can see I have two equations again. This time we are not helped with the fact that we have x or y being the subject. We don't have x is equal to something or y is equal to something. What we must do is focus in on the coefficients. Now, coefficient sounds like a really hard word, but all I mean is these numbers here, the numbers before the x and the y's. And you'll notice that this one here actually doesn't have a number before the x. And so what that means is that this is just 1x. And we can use the fact that we have just 1x there in order to rearrange this equation to get x to be the subject. It's very easy. So what I'm going to do is, focusing on that top equation, I'm going to take this 2y onto the other side like so, and I'm going to subtract 2y from both sides. So that first equation now is going to become x is equal to 8 minus 2y. Now we've got x as being the subject, I can use that and I can substitute it into the second equation. So you'll see x is equal to 8 minus 2y, and I'm going to put that in here instead of this x. So what that means is the second equation is now going to become 2y plus 3, and I now need to multiply 3 by x. But instead of x, I'm going to write 8 minus 2y. And notice I put that equation there in brackets, the 8 minus 2y needs to be in brackets because the whole thing needs to be times by 3. And you'll see we'll do that in a minute. Now it's all still equal to 12. And now we're going to deal with those brackets by expanding them out. So I need to multiply everything inside the brackets by 3. The 2y is going to stay there. Plus, and then I'm going to do 3 times 8, which is 24. And then I also need to multiply 3 by minus 2y. And so this is going to be minus 6y. And this is still equal to 12. Now you might notice in this equation now I have two terms that both have y in them. So we have 2y here, and I have minus 6y here. And so what I can do is I can collect those two things together. 2y subtract 6y is going to be negative 4y. Plus 24, that's still there, is equal to 12. Now we are trying to solve this equation. So the same as before, I'm going to subtract 24 from both sides. I subtract 24 from the left-hand side, and so this will go. So on that left-hand side, I'm just left with minus 4y is equal to, and now I must do 12, subtract 24, and so this is negative 12. Last step is to divide through by negative 4. So y is equal to, and then negative 12 divided by negative 4, those negatives will cancel out, and so you're left with 12 divided by 4, which is 3. This is the first solution. Now once we've got the y value, the same as in the previous questions, we need to substitute that into one of the two equations at the top. I think I'll choose the first one, it looks slightly easier. So I'm going to put 3 in there instead of y. So first job is to do 2 times 3, which is 6, plus x is equal to 8. Now we can subtract 6 from both sides. And so you are just going to be left with x is equal to 2. And that's the second solution. Now, as we did before, I'm going to put another similar problem up on the screen. And so if you'd like to have a go at this one as well, using a similar method, you can go ahead and try and pause the video. Okay, so if you've had a go at that, the first thing you should have done is start to look at those coefficients again, the numbers here. And you'll see this one is the one that we are interested in because we just have one y there. So we're going to leave this one where it is, and we're going to take this 2x onto the other side here, and that will do the job of rearranging the equation so that y is the subject. So that first equation is going to become y is equal to 6 minus 2x. Now once you've got that, the same as before, you should be taking this and substituting it into the second equation. This time we have y. So I need to take that 6 minus 2x and need to pop it in here instead of that y value. So this is going to become 2 times 6 minus 2x. Don't forget the brackets. Minus the x is equal to 5. Now we expand those brackets. So 2 times 6 is 12. 2 times negative 2x is going to be negative 4x. Minus 3x is equal to 5. As before, we have two terms here that both have x in them, so I can just collect those two things together. So we have 12 minus 7x is equal to 5. Now I need to subtract 12 from both sides. Subtracting 12 on the left-hand side will do that. And so we are left with minus 7x is equal to 5 minus 12, which is negative 7. Now we can divide through by negative 7 to work out x. Negative 7 divided by negative 7 is 1. So once you have that x solution, you can substitute it into one of the equations at the top. You choose which one you like the look of. I will choose the first one. So I'm going to put 1 in there. And so now I have y plus, and I'm going to do 2 times 1, which is just 2, is equal to 6. Now I must subtract 2 to work out what y is. So I'm going to subtract 2 there. I'm going to subtract 2 from the 6. And so we have y is equal to 4. And that is the second solution. And that is the end of our examples. Now there are two methods for solving simultaneous equations. This method is called substitution. There is another method called elimination. And I would strongly recommend understanding both of those methods because depending on the simultaneous equations that you get, sometimes it's more appropriate to use this method and sometimes the elimination method works better. So if you're not confident with elimination as well, then feel free to go and watch my video on elimination, which I will link down in the description for you. And thanks so much for watching.